Hi guys, my name is Catherine Pabone. I am your host on Z Files podcast, where we bring your curiosity to our conversation. Today, I have Chris Fields. Would you like to introduce yourself and why you're here?
Yes, well, thank you. Yes, my name is Chris Field. I'm a candidate for school board director in the Stroudsburg area school district, and something new, something exciting, and I'm here to talk about that today.
Thank you. Okay, so first of all, why Stroudsburg? Did you grow up here? What's your story here?
Yes, so I'd like to say lifelong Stroudsburg resident. I was born over here at the hospital here in East Stroudsburg. Went to Stroudsburg School District, graduated there, moved away, got married right after high school, moved away for 20 years, and now have moved back. But so yeah, pretty much a lifelong resident. My parents and my family very connected to the district. My mom taught in the Stroudsburg School District for over 25 years, and my dad drove a school bus in the Stroudsburg District for I don't know how many years exactly, probably 15-ish type of years. Yes. Yes, so that's my background and my connection to Stroudsburg.
Fantastic. Okay. So I'm kind of a competitor. I grew up in the South, like East Stroudsburg South. So that's some background on that. You served on the boards of two nonprofits in the Poconos. How has that experience prepared you to serve on the school board, especially when it comes to budgeting and decision making? What's the difference? Are you nervous?
No, I'm just thinking to answer the question and whatnot. So my background with the nonprofits, I think has been extremely valuable because it's given me a perspective. I've worked in for-profit business for 30 plus years, so 30 years of financial experience there, and everything's been about making money, and how much can we make and whatnot. And so coming to a nonprofit and serving on a board there, it's not about necessarily profit, it's about the mission and about why we exist as a nonprofit and what we're trying to achieve. And so I'm able to take the experience and I wouldn't say the cutthroat business world and whatnot, but that experience and bring it to a situation like the nonprofit or the school board, and to be able to say, I've been constantly under pressure to meet budgets, to we develop the budget, we look at every line, every dollar is important, and what are we spending on and whatnot. So I think to take that experience from the business world and to bring it to a school board, I think when I look at the Stroudsburg School Board and the makeup of it as it exists today, I don't know that there's anybody else who has 30 years of financial background.
That transferable skills.
Yes, and so that's what I'd like to be able to. I'm not looking to do anything crazy, upset the apple cart or anything, but I want to complement the existing board.
Yeah.
So everybody's got their own unique strengths and the things that they bring to the table. And I believe there's several educators on the board or former educators and whatnot. So, they bring some knowledge that I don't have as far as the education and what it's like to be in the classroom. And conversely, I can be there and say, wow, that sounds like a great idea as far as maybe a new program that they're looking to put into place. It's a great idea, understand the need and all that kind of stuff, but how much is that going to cost and whatnot? And if it's too much or whatnot, maybe there's ways, or I can bring ideas on how we can, maybe trim that and make it, and still make it work and whatnot. So that's what I think. I'm not going to be somebody who's just coming in and saying, nope, we have to change everything, or we can't spend any money or anything like that. It's just about how can we spend money wisely and within the financial constraints and means of the taxpayers of our district, basically. Sure, we'd like to be able to give the kids and the students everything and whatnot. That's why we have school. It's the school is there to educate our children and whatnot, but we also have to look at our financial means. In the nonprofit world, we talk about making an investment in the community, and I see the school board as the same thing, trying to convince taxpayers that, it's taxes, and taxes has a bad, connotation about it. It's like no one likes to pay taxes. But if you look upon this, your tax dollars are an investment in our community.
Yeah, they are.
Whatnot. Yeah, and the students and the next generation and all those kind of things. But it's our job as a school board then to show that and to provide a return on investment that says, okay, we're going to have to raise taxes this year because of this and that, but we need to do a good job of explaining why we're looking to
showing why.
Yeah, exactly. So we show what we're hoping to achieve, and then on the flip side, then we show what the results were. That it's like we invested, this, and maybe more teachers, more technology, and our proficiency scores went from where they're at today, which is not really an acceptable level. We're at about the 50% level in reading and math. One of my goals is to increase those incrementally over the years and whatnot.
The results.
Yes, so.
Well, you pointed out on Stroudsburg's math and reading scores that they're debatably low. What do you think is causing this, and what solutions would you push if you were elected?
I really don't know what's causing it, actually, because when I look at the district compared to the other districts in the county, they're all at about the same level. My campaign strategy is Stroudsburg wins again. I know you might not like that coming from Stroudsburg and whatnot. Stroudsburg, just a little bit of a history in a way, is Stroudsburg used to be referred to as the pride of the Poconos. And so
debatable.
and certainly is and whatnot, but 30, 40 years ago when I was growing up in the district, Stroudsburg set the standard to some degree. I mean, that was seen as, things, that's where things happened. Not as much was going on. The population just wasn't there in Pocono Mountain or East Stroudsburg. And
it
now,
definitely was seen as like the better school sometimes.
Well, see, we've convinced you. All right, no,
I'm not convinced.
But now I feel like all the schools and what I have fallen into what I call the morass of mediocrity. So everyone, the level, instead of striving for excellence, which I think should be, I think everybody in the district can get behind, hey, we want great test scores. We want great outcomes. We want our students
to show success,
exactly, and to be successful when they graduate in whatever career field they choose, whether it's vocational, college, armed services, whatever. But where sometimes you see political things about so many kids can't read and whatever else. Well, if they put this out there, only 27% of the kids will be able to read it. That's not really funny and stuff like that. It's serious.
Really disappointing, because that's the future.
Yes, and so to have a high school graduate go out there and their first day on the job, and maybe they don't understand the instructions, or there's some basic math and they just can't do those prerequisite kind of things and whatnot. We're failing our students. We're failing the next generation, and I think we need to take it seriously. And I think everybody should be able to rally behind that. Exactly. So yeah, that's
a good response.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot. What are some reasons that you think Stroudsburg isn't much of a pride lately? Like, what do you think is like a shift?
I don't, again, I can't put my finger on just one thing, but I sometimes the bureaucracy gets in the way of the day-to-day and the boots on the ground, down where it matters.
Yeah.
We have lots of overhead and lots of different people making decisions and whatnot, but by the time it trickles down to the classroom, maybe some things are lost. I think our teachers, and I don't know all of them, I just know the teachers that I had and the ones that I know today and whatnot, they genuinely are concerned about their students. They genuinely want the best for their students.
Teaching is a passion job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely not there for the money, unfortunately.
But yet, oftentimes people say, oh, the school teachers and school, they only work 9 months out of the year. And you'll hear that a lot, but there's a lot that goes, think about the day. And a teacher's day to spend in the classroom with all these students, moldable, impressionable, the challenges that come for, I think I mentioned the diversity, 17th in the state of Pennsylvania, 17th most diverse district. So a teacher going into that classroom is dealing with students who, many perhaps English isn't their primary language.
Yeah.
So I can't even begin to fathom how to instruct a class with 30 different students, and I'm trying to explain a concept.
Yeah, those difficulties,
Yeah, they don't understand. So when we point to proficiency scores and whatnot, I think if I was, I don't know, in a class and they were speaking Polish, I'm not going to be able to do my best because I may not, there's a language barrier.
Yeah, of course.
And so do we need to address that first and whatnot, and then get on to the matter of teaching the reading, writing, and arithmetic kind of thing? I don't doubt that the students, I don't think kids today are that much less intelligent than they were or anything like that. I think it's just some of the challenges that are there and whatnot. And so our job as a school board is to identify those challenges, to work with the schools, to work with the administrators, the teachers.
To overcome those challenges.
Exactly. And to give each student the best chance to succeed.
I think you mentioned your mom was an educator?
Yes. My mom taught in the school district for over 25 years. The neat thing about her was, so I was in middle school already, and she had stayed home and she had raised 4 kids and had always wanted to be a teacher. There were stories about her as a child, taking the dolls and teaching them, whatever.
That's sweet.
And stuff. But she hadn't fulfilled that dream. But so I'm the youngest of 4. By the time I'm middle school, so whatever, 12-ish or so, she decided to go back to school. So she came over here to ESU, and she
really
received her college degree in teaching and got the teaching certificate, and then taught. I think she may have even started out in East Stroudsburg as a sub, and then got a full-time position in Stroudsburg.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And whatnot. So yeah, so to and to just to understand, and so it's my mom, so I'm going to obviously say good things and whatnot, but the passion that she had for the students and the concern for the students and whatnot, and like I said earlier, I genuinely think that the majority of teachers have that same passion.
Yeah.
They're thinking about their students all the time. They're thinking, what can I do for this person? What can I do for that one? And stuff. And so I hear a lot from people saying, well, we have to cut spending. I can't begin to imagine how expensive it is to meet the needs of such a diverse population.
Large student body as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm coming in. It's kind of, again, about complimenting the school board, doing what we can to be fiscally responsible and save where we can, but it takes money.
Yeah, it does.
To do this, so yes.
So we went over it a little bit, but Stroudsburg is definitely a very diverse school district in the state. How do you plan to ensure that all students, regardless of background, all have equal access to a quality education?
Well, I think that goes back to again finding out what the barriers are. Just a little aside, my grandson, and actually my granddaughter now too, is actually in school. They live in South Korea.
Oh, wow.
So they are going to school, public school in north of Seoul, South Korea, and whatnot. But they went into that classroom not speaking more or less but a few words of Korean.
Are they bilingual now?
And my grandson Sammy, basically could sit here and
Aww.
have a discussion in Korean with you. So he went in at a young enough age that he was able to pick that up. And I give these students credit. I mean, they're doing the best they can. They're picking it up, but think how hard it would be, for a class here at ESU to go in and they're speaking a totally different language.
Yeah.
How do you accomplish? How do you learn in that environment? So, I think we need to find out where the kids are, and I think the districts must be doing something in that regard, but we can do better. We have to do better, because these kids come in and they're just lost, I imagine. The teachers up there talking, and what are we going to do? So how can we assure that they all have access and whatnot to quality education? Meet them where they're at, I think. To find out, okay, this goes back again to another challenge with the district. If we have 20 different language groups represented and whatnot, it's easy to sit here in this environment and say, well, we need to get 20 tutors or 20 instructional aides who can help them,
right,
who speak those languages, but that all costs money and stuff too. So one thing I'm a big proponent of is best practices and whatnot. What are other diverse districts doing to meet the needs of their diverse population and whatnot? Are there programs? Are there maybe shared resources that we're in a digital age now and stuff like that, and Zoom and whatnot. Can we collaborate together with other districts? If we just have one person who's speaking Mandarin Chinese or something like that, then maybe there's somebody in another district. Maybe we can consolidate or work together and whatnot. So I think we need to assess, meet students where they are, and then the lastly is to follow up on people.
Following up.
Yeah, we put people into the system and then forget about them and stuff. I think that's something that we're probably all guilty of to some degree in whatever part of life and whatnot. But in a school district, somebody to check on those students with those maybe language barriers or something like that, and to not just, okay, you should be good, it's September 1st, go, we'll see you, and then at the end of the year see where they're at. I think we need to stay on top of things basically, and to make sure. I think if all of our students had that level of attention and whatnot, I think that right in itself would help our proficiency scores, because I can't help but think there's people taking those tests who don't even understand the questions, and have no idea, they're just, whatever and stuff. So that's my thought on that.
It's a valid answer.
So
thank you. So school boards often face a lot of political divides. People bring their parties into the conversations, especially when it comes to curriculum, funding, policy decisions, because those are fundamentally like a political thing. How do you plan to work with board members who may have differing perspectives to find like common ground?
Well, and finding common ground is the key. So consensus, to collaborate to find consensus. So it's not just a matter of there's 9 school board members and then there's a superintendent. So everything has to pass, obviously. So the board is going to, and issues before the board, and it's like, okay, so it passes 5-4. Well, is that really what you want? Because you don't necessarily have consensus. So you may have won that vote and whatnot, but the goal would be to get everybody to come somewhere. And if I've been to a number of school board meetings, and they do roll call votes basically, and there's lots of things. Okay, we'll pay this bill, for instance, and they're unanimous, 9-0. Everyone agrees that yes, that bill needs to be paid, or that issue. The contentious things, the things that are kind of like, well, are we going to raise property taxes 5% this year or 37% because to cover things and whatnot. And if you pass something at a 5-4 vote and whatnot, that means there's not everybody's whatever, but
you'll be happy about it.
Yeah, exactly. And we're trying to. I don't know that we're ever going to be able to please everyone, but if everyone works together towards, it's kind of like, well, maybe we can give a little bit on this program. Maybe we can, cut spending here and whatnot. And then it gets to the point where, okay, so our budget increase or tax increase isn't quite as high as it was going to be, or whatever the issue is. If it's maybe a potentially divisive issue in the community, to hear everyone and to be respectful of, well, you know what? I never thought of it that way before.
Yeah,
I
different
really,
perspectives.
Yeah, by you explaining why you believe as you do on that issue, that's helped me to realize that, maybe I have some room to grow, or I never considered the fact that, whatever and stuff like that. And as people talk together and whatnot, hopefully you can come to that point.
Right.
As opposed to nope, and it's my way or the highway kind of thing and whatnot, and that doesn't always work.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's pretty much my thought on that.
Well, I've been to a few school board meetings in just multiple districts. What should and shouldn't be taught in schools is a constant topic. Where do you stand on balancing the curriculum transparency, parental input, because there's always going to be parents that come in, and then also academic freedom for this district?
Well, first off, what should be taught? They go back to the reading, writing, arithmetic kind of thing. So the core educational concepts, I think are non-negotiable.
Yeah.
I think, we have to be able to read, we have to be able to write, we have to be able to have some basic math comprehension and computation abilities and whatnot. There's a lot of talk, I personally benefited from extracurricular activities. I played sports and whatnot. My brother and sister were in the band and those kind of things, and they had great experiences through that. Sports, for instance, with the proliferation of travel leagues and AAU sports and all those kind of things, there's some talk, well, I don't know, parents will pay money to put their child in, an extracurricular sports league, why is the school funding that? So I support extracurricular activities. How many of them we can have and whatnot, that becomes a discussion point, and to what the benefit and those kind of things. So as far as what should be taught, again, the core principles. I remember something else you asked about was parental rights. I believe that parents should have a say and whatnot. There's some things that happen, in the news cycle, you'll hear about some things happening maybe in a school that the parents didn't know about and whatnot. So I'm not for that. I truly believe that parents should have a say, or guardians, or whoever is, the caregiver for that child. I don't think the school should take over that responsibility from the parent.
Yeah.
That's my thought on that. But I think you can certainly work together. I think if there's going to be a program that may be controversial to some, I think you need to be transparent about it. I don't think a school district should put in a program without letting it, okay, here's the program, here's what it's about, here's what we're trying to achieve through that, and put it out there for the public to know about it. Because I think the worst thing we could do as a school district is to put something out there and then people find out about, you're offering what? What kind of curriculum or class or something like that. So I think it's important to be transparent, to get feedback from the community before you do it. Yeah. And to see if it works, and then, but it's important to get feedback before you do something.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to we'll do it and ask forgiveness later and stuff like that. I don't think that's a good way to do it when we're dealing with children and whatnot. And there was a third point. I don't know that I addressed each one.
I think you did. Okay. Well, the last point was like the academic freedom, like of the district to make their decisions, but I think you pretty much went over that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then last but not least, what's one spot in Stroudsburg that best represents the community for you?
That best represents the community. Well, I'm pretty excited about coming into town. I sound like I grew up in the Snydersville area, so okay. out of town. I played baseball in the West End, a Little League, which was a lot of the fellow athletes were from Pleasant Valley School District, and anytime we would in the extracurricular play Stroudsburg, they'd refer to us as hillbillies, and I think maybe there still is that. Yeah. You know, there's the town people, and then there's the people out in in the sticks, as people say. But I think Stroudsburg has done so much to, it's a pretty vibrant community. Yeah. There's, no matter what, there's a diverse population base here
there's so much growth happening.
Yeah, it's not like it was back in the 80s when I was coming through, and it was just like, a homogenous population of just, no matter what, let's put it this way, I won't want to live with 1,000 of just me, 1,000 Chris's running around.
1,000 Chris's.
Yeah, the diversity and whatnot is just, it's dynamic and whatnot, and it brings a lot of different, so there's a lot of different views, and there could be challenges with different views and whatnot, but it again, it broadens, and that's what education and whatnot, to broaden our horizons. You come to college and it's, to learn to think and whatnot. Yeah. It's not just telling somebody how to think, but better, okay, what to think. To be able to learn how to think, and to be able to, when faced with challenges or issues, to be able to have a framework whereby an individual can, take the facts, take everything that's out there, and formulate in their own mind, and come to a decision. Not just, okay, this is what you need to think. No, I came to this conclusion. I analyzed it. I did the research.
Critical thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something I'd love to put into when we talk about curriculum and stuff like that.
Yeah, so critical thinking skills. Yeah, it's really needed.
Yeah, critical thinking, and then just some basic life skills. And I think there's some classes.
Life skills is something for me that I think should be taught more.
Yeah, like I hate to say it, my youngest son had some questions about writing checks and stuff like that, and so, but those kind of things, to think about. Some of these students will leave, the day after high school and maybe have their own place or something like that, or maybe even before, but to be able to balance a budget, or to be able to.
Some students don't have like stable families that teach them those like life skills. So.
Yeah, exactly, and whatnot. So to be able to provide that is huge. So.
But the special spot in Stroudsburg.
Oh, the special spot. I was going to say the special spot is, I'm thinking as I go down Main Street, and I just see that, going down Main Street takes me back in time, because I see the flags, for instance, that are honoring military veterans and whatnot. So that's one thing. I see the Monroe County Historical Society, which is being renovated and still paying homage to our past and our history. I see the courthouse square, where whatever your political beliefs and whatnot, we have a courthouse square, and we have a place where people can assemble and present views and debate, protest or have, exactly, those kind of things. So I see that. I see a parade, like the St. Patrick's Day parade, which was just a week or two ago.
I love the festivals and parades that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have that real big city atmosphere on a small scale, but almost every weekend in the summer there's something going on. There's, you know, Irish Fest, there's Latin Fest over here at the college.
Yeah. Even new things happening. Like I just covered a story about the Tea and Plant Festival happening this weekend. It's new.
Haven't heard about that.
Yeah,
so,
like we have so many new things happening.
So, yeah, and so with all that, so I think Main Street almost, if I had to pick a favorite place in Stroudsburg outside of where I live and stuff like that, would be Main Street.
Main Street,
because it encompasses all that, and even athletics and stuff like that during the time, like when I remember when sports was even bigger than it was. And
yeah, I've heard that it used to be way bigger than it is now.
Well, yeah, and it was the Thanksgiving Day, they used to call it the Turkey Day game and stuff, and so if Stroudsburg played in East Stroudsburg and won, they would walk back from East Stroudsburg. And since that happened so often, they had to walk. I'm just kidding about that. No, East Stroudsburg has had great success even recently.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the kind of thing though too. I think extracurricular and sports and whatnot, they help build community cohesiveness and pride and stuff like that too. I don't think it's wrong to be proud of the fact that, you know, I went to Stroudsburg, you went to East Stroudsburg, and, you know, and with that pride though comes the fact that it hurts then to see the scores being where they're at.
Yeah.
And so let's bring back the excellence in education. Let's bring back, get out of the morass of mediocrity, challenge students. I think, you know, if you just allow them to, hey, what do you guys want to do today? Oh, we'll watch a movie or something like that. Often was, I don't know if that happened in your educational experience, but sometimes if there was a sub or something like that, they'd put a movie on or something like that. But to challenge the students to reach higher and to try to achieve more, to push them to say, you know, yeah, it's a C's passing and whatnot, but let's strive for the B, and then maybe keep going and get the A, and then, you know, excellence isn't a bad thing, and it comes back to my campaign strategy slogan, Stroudsburg wins again. And that's not, you know, a egotistical thing or anything. It's like Stroudsburg, if we increase the awareness, increase all these kind of things, and the students achieve and perform, our community, well, the students win, the community wins, the taxpayers get the return on that investment.
Everything's pretty positive on.
So is it pie in the sky? I don't think so. I genuinely think that, you know, everybody can get behind that. Everybody should be able to support, you know, excellence in education and whatnot. So
I agree.
So,
well, thank you so much for joining. Is there anything else you would want to mention about your campaign or anything you would want viewers to know about you?
Just like I said, it's you know, after living here for 50 years basically, you know, I would just we may have to cut this part, I apologize for that, but what I'd like to stress is just that it's about the students and what I said earlier about a nonprofit or taxpayers. It's taxes, education, whatever time, it's an investment in our community. Yeah. So an investment in our students is an investment in our community, and we all benefit.
Yeah, and you want to bring a return on that investment.
Yes, absolutely.
Sounds good. All right, well, this was the segment Behind the Ballot. So today we had featured Chris Fields about his ballot of his campaign running for Stroudsburg School Board. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm Catherine Pavon, and this was Chris Fields. Thank you so much. Have a good day.